All right. I think we're live. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push 1. All right, got the confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 493. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Doc in the description beneath the video. This should be a quick one. Just wanted to go over this real quick. All right, let's get started.
We make warrior chants, keep the warriors. I'm in the hood, posted up in the warrior stance.
Check out the coordinated flyness. Jewelry merchant in person, your highness. General Island God Osiris. Connect, weapons collect, respect. Test the veteran, bench a couple sets, impress. I played them from your chest. Quotes from the throne of the dynasty. The plan was on papyrus. Study science and calculate the timing. Is the diamond dirty in the rough? Saber tooth, tiger, see the tusk. Golden don't touch. I split you like a Dutch delicate thrust. Icy slush wrist, pelican crush deluxe. What the fuck is up? Nobody fucking with us. We crashing through your TPs. Both gang chain military. Poisonous ring machine king DRDC. You know the species. The counter of the fork. Hear the sheep lead. The flock to the promised land. Son of a street king. My gunshots will make a faggot Earl. If it wasn't for this thing of ours, I'd be that nigga back and furl. But most of y'all know the story of P.Allah Hassan, the motherfucking warrior. War chiefs, war paint the whole town red. War chiefs, war paint the whole town red. Glamorous magic, my life like Dungeons and Dragons. The weight on my brain more heavy than the Benz wagon. Bin Laden, great phone, walkie-talkie supplier in your building with packages in every cabinet. Tracks is fattening, rhymes like silks and satins. Don't confuse the handkerchiefs with the napkins. The boss is ruling, you floss, but you soft and chewy. Face looking like you off the ooey. I'm in that unidentified rental with my slingshot. Don't ever scheme on the king. That's how you get your team pop. All up in the way, goofy. That's how you got your queen got. Slapped the sucker so hard, I could have sworn I seen snot. Mental mix, martial arts, Mantu master, throat slasher. Surrounded by the animals of Madagascar. Another story of a should have said the glory of Don Medallions, the motherfucking warrior. Warrior chants, keep the warriors. I'm in the hood, posted up in my warrior stance. War chiefs, war paint the whole town red. We make warrior chants, keep the warriors. I'm in the hood, posted up in my warrior stance. War chiefs, war paint the whole town red. Enemy bad, you hear the warriors come.
All right. Let me pull up the docket real quick. Actually, let me drop the link in the chat. Drop the link in. Terrence Forrest Jr., good evening to you. Megan Montana, peace to you. NC Worker, good evening. China White, how are you doing, my dear? Let me get this cracking real quick. Link is in the chat if anyone wants to get on and have this discussion as well. So All right, first item on the docket is from Coindesk.com. Russian Prime Minister introduces bill to allow fintech sandboxes, blockchain included. The Russian government may soon allow the creation of a regulatory sandboxes for companies working on cutting-edge technologies like artificial intelligence and distributed ledgers. Introducing a new bill on March 17th, Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin. The plan does not directly mention blockchain or cryptocurrency, but an explanatory note mentions distributed ledger as one of the technologies that could be explored in the new experimental regulatory regime. Such regimes can be established to live test the new technologies in medicine, transportation, distant learning, financial markets, online commerce, and other sectors. The bill gives Russia's regulators scope to deal with novel tech in a more flexible way. The document says it also suggests that the country's regions would be able to set up their own local sandboxes. The Bank of Russia, the central bank, will be supervising the sandboxes related to fintech. Representatives of the Economic Development Ministry, which initiated the bill, told the Russian newspaper Izvestia that fintech projects operating within sandboxes would be subject to lighter regulation regarding cash reserves, financial reporting, and foreign currency controls. Olga Shepeleva, a senior expert at the Center for Strategic Research, a Moscow-based think tank that helped draft the bill, told CoinDesk that the law should have already been passed as part of the government's program on developing the digital economy in Russia. However, there were concerns that such a law would excessively skew the power balance in favor of the executive branch. The main idea is that the government can choose to make a temporary expectations from laws and government and regulations from the sandboxes, Shepeleva said. The Bank of Russia has already been running a regulatory sandbox for fintech projects and has even reported successfully testing blockchain-based tokenization pilot by the mining and smelting company Nornickel. However, the central bank's sandbox only helps to model the possible uses of the new technologies, but does not allow businesses to test their use cases on real clients. Neither does it provide the means for expert and public control over such experiments. The new bill will allow the creation of sandboxes in which real businesses will be working with real customers, Shepeleva explained. This is actually a good idea. I'm surprised that they're even adopting this. Russia's central bank has consistently maintained a skeptical stance towards cryptocurrencies and has recently said it's involved in drafting legislation that will block crypto marketplaces from operating in the country. Though ownership would likely be tolerated. Mikhail Koman, research director at the Center for Advanced Governance in Moscow, said Russia is unlikely to become more accepting of cryptocurrencies anytime soon, saying for sure the pandemic and the financial crisis makes the government look for unorthodox solutions, but crypto is not a part of that. The Bank of Russia is interested in lowering uncertainty in the financial and foreign currency markets caused by the volatility of the Russian ruble, and it believes cryptocurrencies would add even more uncertainty, Coleman said. The Bank of Russia's position remains the winning one in this argument. So a sandbox is basically a test bed in the tech space. And so what they're talking about doing is having a sandbox underneath the foresight of the government itself, and that the distributed ledger technologies, they're not calling it blockchain, the distributed ledger technologies would be in that test bed or in that sandbox for the government to actually see firsthand how this works, because this allows them to, have oversight over what's going on. That way you're not doing stuff behind the scenes and then you're trying to present it to them, because, you know, for all they know, that code could be tampered or tainted with a lot of malware or some other form of exposure to foreign governments themselves or foreign entities for that matter. So this is actually a very good idea. I'm surprised that we don't really do too much of that stuff here. But then again, it's Russia, so. All right, jump to the next item and the last item on the docket. All right, this is from Forbes.com. Oh man, this is 5 ways blockchain can unblock the coronavirus medical supply chain. The COVID-19 crisis has put unprecedented strain on the global supply chain of every product, but most acutely on critical medical supplies. Companies in the US are converting supply chains to manufacture critical supplies such as personal protective equipment, COVID-19 test kits, and ventilators. New open source movements are stepping up around the world to try addressing growing ventilator shortages. Internationally, as COVID-19 cases in China have fallen, factories are slowly coming back online. This is at the same time as demand around the world starting to skyrocket for critical supplies. Multi-million-dollar contracts that usually take months to negotiate are being inked within hours. However, one of the key bottlenecks has been the lack of trust between demand, supply, and the financial mechanism. Broken medical supply chains. Governments and health systems around the world have particular requirements for each system. These standards are being updated almost weekly to allow for more supplies to come online to meet the forecast demand. Governments around the world are battling to overcome legacy procurement systems that cannot move at the pace this crisis demands. This means countries around the world are missing out on supplies because they cannot get financial mechanisms in place in time, hours rather than weeks. Many suppliers around the world are insisting on upfront cash payment as they try to distinguish credible buyers from brokers and middlemen distributors. There has been widespread reports of fraudulent production and fraudulent claims across the medical and personal protective equipment supply chain. There are risks that equipment may not arrive in the right specifications at the right locations at the right time. There is essentially a trust breakdown across the medical supply chains globally. No, they're right about this. This is actually a really good time to actually implement distributed ledger technology in a crisis like this. All right. The 5 trust challenges facing the medical supply chain. Product requirements is number 1. Standards vary across health systems and countries, creating confusion for what each factory should be producing. This is very true. Different standards, different sort of statutes on the books and different frameworks. This would actually standardize it if you had a distributed ledger set up, because everybody would have to kind of tap in, unless, you know, because it's decentralized, you can kind of tap in, but there would have to be some kind of bare minimum requirement that everybody agrees upon for a framework. Number 2, supplier credibility. There is uncertainty over which suppliers can produce equipment to the right quality at the right production volume at the right time. Yeah, this is true. This is true, right? 5-star versus 4-star versus 3-star. You don't want somebody producing these sort of supplies if they have a 1-star rating. You really don't want that. You don't want them in the supply chain period at that point. Number 3 is financial payments. Factories and freight companies are requiring financial payments be made upfront as their workers slowly come back online, and they themselves are trying to prioritize credible purchase requests. Yeah, because if you use some kind of cryptocurrency or a token, or well, actually a cryptocurrency, if you made the payments through cryptocurrencies, you would get it in a matter of seconds, not 72 hours like an ACH payment through the SWIFT system. So you don't have to wait for money to clear. You're getting that stuff in real time, or at least near real time. Number 4, customs certifications. Custom certifications need to be rapidly validated to allow rapid transportation of equipment internationally. What is going on here? Sorry. Validated to allow rapid transportation of equipment internationally, given that medical equipment is highly regulated. Yeah. So in the United States, we use something called UL on electronics equipment. So if you look on a toaster or a coffee machine or something like that, there's always a small label that says UL. That's because it's been verified. It's passed certifications that this is safe for use. The same thing would happen with the blockchain. You would leverage the blockchain to actually certify certain medical supplies in the time of crisis that's being credible for use. And what has happened the last couple of months is that you have had people buy all of these sort of masks on Amazon, and then they have tried to now flip it the last few weeks, and these are not the right masks. You need like an N95 mask, and they're selling painter's masks as if they're actual masks for medical usage or for a healthcare crisis, and it's not. Okay, and they're making a lot of profit off of it. So we want to cut out the bootleggers and the black market altogether, leveraging certifications as well as using the blockchain to rapidly verify that all of these items that are being sold are actually sold for the right reason and under the right conditions. Okay. Number 5 is transportation tracking. Transport options need to be validated to ensure that the right shipments can move from factories to airports to distribution centers to health centers around the world under the right conditions. Temperature controlled for pharmaceutical products. Yeah, this is true. So you're talking about, any sort of like pharmaceutical drug that's produced in a rapid amount of time. In Africa, what you have, and I'm using Africa specifically because I was just over there, what you have is what do you call it? Counterfeit products, counterfeit pharmaceutical drugs being sold over there. Most of it is just powdered sugar. It doesn't really actually have any sort of medicinal effect. Most of it is a placebo effect. People might feel good, but there's not. It was just powdered sugar. And so you have, medical supplies that are sitting inside these warehouses and things like that, being transported and whatnot through DHL, UPS, FedEx, and those type of places. You want to make sure it's stored in the right location. You don't want that thing sitting in the sun or any sort of inclement sort of weather due to mold and things like that. That stuff can be really bad. Blockchain is a novel smart contract technology that has been used to guarantee cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, as well as ensure provenance of supplies. Provenance means origin. In the sustainability world, blockchain has been used to verify the ethical source of minerals, seafood, fresh produce, and forest products, and among others. It uses a deep encryption system which enables contracts to be regulated in a more decentralized manner. And let me advance these people. It uses a deep encryption system which enables contracts to be regulated in a more decentralized manner and secure enough to allow financial payments to flow through such a mechanism. There are both private and open source blockchain systems, with each system encouraging coordination and collaboration above one particular party having too much control over the market and rapid dispute resolution. Yeah, this is very true. In a smart contract system, you order a mask if you're a said nation state or said government, and you expect if there's a certain quantity and that the payment is correct for that quantity, that it automatically ships. There is no sort of real interaction based on the sort of smart contracts that are set up. That's the whole purpose of smart contracts. What role could blockchain play in the medical supply chain? Currently, there's no centralized procurement system governed by a central body. Central banks regulate the financial system centrally. It is a situation where demand for critical supplies are spiking around the world. These healthcare systems are unable to verify which ones have credible manufacturing capacities. Traditionally, supply chains have been globally disrupted. New vendors are appearing with credibility challenges, and suppliers are trying to distinguish credible purchasers or ensure their production inventory will be purchased. Yeah, blockchain does come in handy in that area, or I should say distributed ledger technology does come handy in that area. You know, things like Hyperledger and various other platforms can be used to leverage this sort of tracking. And so the supply chain is very, very important. As long as you know the origin, you know, you don't want somebody selling you some bad mask on the market, either on the black market too. You know, people are starting to become desperate and they're just getting any type of mask. You know, the same mask that they use to give birth to babies with, man. They're actually starting to use those for COVID, and then that's where the problem starts, because that's the wrong mask. You don't want that.
What's up with it, Mike?
Hey, what's good, bro? What's going on?
Hey, then I wanted to chime in about something you were saying earlier.
Yes, sir.
With these chains being used for logistics purposes. China had a issue maybe about two years ago, and they actually signed part of the trade deal that they did with France was to incorporate blockchain, and they chose to use the V chain to do that. So I think the Chinese already adapted V chain for most of this stuff already.
Yeah, there's a variety of chains a variety of DLTs that they have selected. I know they've been using their own customized stuff in house. I don't know how far they've gotten with it though.
Yeah, they actually did it with I think it was pork and wine that they already implemented it on.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
You know, if they start using DLT for especially medical supplies, there's a possibility that they will bypass the dollar system, and I don't think somebody wants that.
No, that's right, D. Because they was actually using that same VeChain the same VeChain blockchain to authenticate real medicine. They had a problem with fake medicine coming in out of China.
Yeah, counterfeit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all over Africa and all over the Far East, and it's coming into the Caribbean too. They're beginning to discover that fake medicine is coming into the Caribbean from China.
Yeah, the biggest thing that they have is these these Viagra pills, man. Viagra, man, they for whatever reason it seems to be really popular for them to to counterfeit produce. So no one's really tracking this stuff, but I think the conversations that I was having over there, they're starting to crack down, or at least they come up with a solution to actually crack down on it through blockchain. So
yeah, you have to, because a lot of those people just want the medication, and when they buy it, they die because they don't know what they're getting.
Yeah, you can produce that stuff in your basement.
Yeah.
You got a 3D printer, or not a 3D printer,
Right.
but a nice production printer with the labels and all that stuff, man, and some vials for it. Yeah, you can make it look like it's authentic stuff, man. And people out there walking around looking pretty flashy.
Right.
Yeah, they did that. I think Travis Scott did a deal with Jordan, and they actually used blockchain to authenticate that collaboration.
Wow.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm like I see is that blockchain can allow, say, like you and I to manufacture masks in Africa instead of going to China for it. We can manufacture it in Africa as long as we have the materials. We can get the materials. We can manufacture it anywhere, and you can manufacture it close to the distribution system. And and you don't have to get paid in dollars or euros or whatever the case may be. You can use any kind of currency that you choose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me finish reading this real quick. Traditional tools of Excel sheets and Google Forms are currently being used to govern supplies, with legal contracts being uncertain, inability of individuals to fly to verify factories' capacity, and breakdown of trust of the trade finance and letters of credit traditional payment mechanism. Lack of trust is the biggest bottleneck preventing this market ramping up quicker, and speed is of the essence in the next few weeks. 5 ways blockchain can help. Number 1, product requirements. Provide a mechanism for health systems to continually update factories with the latest product requirements and specifications, almost like a production auction. Yeah. Number 2, supplier credibility provides a way for health systems to credibly assess which factories have high quality control and can meet the specifications and production volumes needed. Yeah, this is like a micro or nano version of OSHA. And you're leveraging the blockchain for that very reason. That's not actually a bad suggestion that anybody who's involved in the supply chain would actually have to abide by.
Yeah, you were just mentioning Underwriters Laboratories. If you want to sell certain electronic products, you have to sign a contract with Underwriters Laboratories. Otherwise, you can't sell it in any country.
Number 3, financial payments act as a trade finance mechanism to ensure upfront blockchain-backed payments to factories that is then released as working capital upon pre-agreed production milestones as supplies move on to the next step of the supply chain. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier, that you have a smart contract set up within the DLT, and if you run low on supplies, it automatically orders new supplies and pays for it without actually any sort of interaction. You don't need a secretary or administrative assistant or supply chain personnel to be sitting in front of a computer ordering supplies from Staples. This stuff is just going to be automatically ordering itself through a smart contract. Number 4, customs certifications. Blockchain-based custom certifications have been used to regulate export of many products from wildlife trade to pharmaceuticals and can be applied here. Yeah, another sort of way to implement compliance on the blockchain. That could all be done within smart contracts and an application. So number 5, transportation tracking. Supplies need to be securely tracked around the world to ensure transparency in the supply chain, which can't occur with blockchain-based provenance tracking. Yeah, I had to send something the other day to Africa, and the thing cost me like $700. I didn't pay it, but they wanted me to pay $700 just to track it. And they, it was a small item. That the cost to ship it was more than what the item was even worth. And I couldn't understand it. But transportation tracking is very important in terms of supplies. So, because if I were to use like United States Postal Service, USPS, there would have been no tracking because they didn't have a system set up because they don't have blockchain. That's United States Postal Service. I mean, I know recently they've announced their implementation of blockchain, but at the time when I was sending something, they didn't have it. You know, they still don't have it to this very day. They don't have tracking set up like that on a global scale.
Well, I mean, the integration that they're doing with Amazon is pretty much what's saving the post office right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. Amazon wants to swallow the post office if they could. Yeah, they would likely go and do it, but no, you know, no one in the government would allow something like that to happen. Is there a broader role for blockchain as the U.S. Congress explores a $2 trillion stimulus package? A blockchain solution could also help ensure companies adhere to conditions set in such a package. For example, guaranteeing worker retention, committing to new standards to rebuild their companies. This could also, I think this is spelled wrong. This could also be applied to commitments around lower carbon standards in line with the Paris Agreement. That should be conditional in any corporate bailout. Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective. I never thought about that. Yeah, it's very interesting. But how many companies would want to sign on for something like that? They may refuse it. For all we know, there's nothing saying that they're obligated to it. This is a wartime effort unlike anything faced in a generation. In 1915, during World War I, J.P. Morgan Jr. and a syndicate of 2,200 banks stepped in as the official purchasing agent for the British, French, and U.S. government for critical war supplies such as steel, chemicals, foods, cotton, to get the Allies up and running with war production capacity. Nothing short of this sort of concerted effort is needed now. Yeah. Yeah, this is Trump's invisible war. I mean, we talked about this yesterday, but this is Trump's invisible war, but he doesn't have the infrastructure in place. He doesn't have a digital infrastructure in place. There's no way to test everybody. There's no way to update the testing. There's no way to, let me advance this person. There's no way to really manage all of these resources needed to, you know, be involved in this sort of this pandemic. And so you're going to have a lot of fake stuff going out there. That's just the nature of it, you know, but how are you going to track all of it? You can't use human capacity because all the social distancing. But on the blockchain, there is no social distancing. There's a hash, there's immutability, and it works at the speed of the wire. So in my opinion, this is actually a great time to actually get into blockchain. You would be crazy not to.
That last paragraph that you just read tells me that the banks are trying to set the system up.
Really?
I'm serious. They're trying to convert. They still have the 1915 system in place, and I think they're trying to convert it to blockchain. Because why I said they still have it in place because about a year and a half ago, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal or New York Times talking about how the big banks were manipulating the price of aluminum and copper, I think it was, and gold. And they were like, you had to buy the aluminum from them. So they were warehousing it, push the price up. And when they get the price they want, then they will release it. They were creating shortages. I don't know if you remember that the thing with the gold when the bank was manipulating the price.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think the problem here is that there is no other alternative to this. You know, what distributed ledger technology or blockchain provides from a digital infrastructure standpoint, this is it. The government can't work fast enough to come up with a new technology. They would have to adopt something that's already in play. Well, can anybody hear me? Rowdy Benoit, go ahead. You have a question, go ahead. You can unmute your mic. Rowdy, you can unmute your mic.
Good evening.
Hey, what's going on?
I'm good. I cannot stay long, but I have a quick question regarding blockchain certification and AR certification. Do you have any suggestions for those certification?
So you can't really get certified in AI, but you can get certified in blockchain. But if you don't actually work in an area to be that's necessary for certification, then learning the technology is more important than actually getting the certification. You get the certification when you already mastered the skills. That's what the certification is for.
Okay.
Yeah, certification is for it's to certify of your mastery of the skill. But if you don't really have the mastery of the skill or of the technology itself, then you're not really, there's no real reason to have the certification.
Okay.
So what I would do is I would actually look more into reading up more on blockchain and AI from a high level rather than to try to certify for something like that.
Okay, so get master technology, then get the certification later.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about the certification. No one really asks for certification because there's no real certifications out as it stands right now. If anything, you'll be certified as a developer. That's the only thing that they really have available. But there's nothing saying that if you don't have the certification, no one's going to listen to you or no one's going to hire you. These are very specific type of roles in the tech world now. AI and blockchain, these are $500,000 roles. These are not something that people just pick up overnight and then they start working. That's something you have to kind of cultivate for yourself from a knowledge standpoint. So,
okay, makes sense. Another quick question. Mm-hmm. After the recession, do you believe most of the job will be replaced by automation?
We're seeing that now. We just went over an article yesterday about Boeing, the airplane company. They leverage automation for production purposes. They went, from 100 people down to 20 people because of robots and automation on making airplanes. And so that's the sort of way that automation is coming in. And this is now that we're talking. We're not talking about 10 years from now, 20 years from now. This is happening right now as we speak, that they're using robots in terms of automation.
Because what I believe now, the different corporations have an alibi to automate everything now. So I'm pretty sure on the public service job, they will replace the worker by automation. So, right, I think that's what they're going to do the next few months.
Well, it depends. No one's in the office right now as we speak. So any company that's getting back into the office, they'll probably be looking at trying to recover the last couple of months that they've lost from office productivity standpoint. But there's always somebody that has to drive the initiative, whether it's a CTO or a CIO. Somebody in the C-level has to drive that initiative. And if you don't get any C-level buy-in, it's never going to work. That's not to say that it can't happen. It's just a matter of somebody has to buy into
it. Okay. What about for the school system? Nowadays, a lot of students, because of the epidemic of coronavirus, a lot of students are studying home or to have a remote access to their teachers. So I'm sure they will, for the teacher department, they will replace a lot of teachers the next few weeks or months.
No, they don't replace teachers. Teachers are unionized. You don't just get rid of teachers. So you know, if anything, they would use AI to enable, you know, teaching assistants, right? You know, especially for things like math, you know, where a student may have a question about a math equation, and the student puts the, you know, the math equation into it, and you know, the AI would actually walk the student through the process of understanding the equation itself. So in some ways they will use AI, in some ways they, you know, it would be very difficult to teach a student from a technology standpoint without that simple human interaction. You know, if you think about when Dell sent their jobs, their customer support to India, and the difficulty that you know Americans had interacting with Indians, that part frustrated American customers so much that they had to bring their customer support back to America just to satisfy their customers. Now you take AI into consideration, or not AI, automation into consideration. A lot of humans don't really like to interact with, you know, automated systems if they can avoid it. That's why a lot of times a person may push 0 on the keypad to get to customer service, a live customer service agent immediately, because they don't want to deal with the you know, the automation piece. And so in some ways automation helps, in some ways it doesn't. So I'm just making a point that to answer your question, that when it comes to automation and replacing jobs, there's some jobs that can be replaced, but there's a lot of jobs that just won't be replaced anytime soon. Teachers being one of them. They're not going to replace teachers anytime soon.
It seems to me a lot of colleges are closing because the expense. A lot of students don't bother to go to college anymore. So don't you think people will take class online?
Yeah, college students, yeah, to a certain extent. You have to remember they spend a lot of money building these facilities, and they don't want things to go empty. So, you know, there's going to be the desire to continuously bring in students. Distant learning is a different experience, right? So for a different requirement. Somebody's in Texas and they're going to MIT in Boston, then, you know, distant learning makes a lot of sense. And, you know, using some form of, you know, Zoom or some other go-to meeting sort of platform for distant learning makes sense. But when it comes to, you know, people being on campus, they're not going to do that.
Okay, maybe one last question. Because I'm learning blockchain by myself. I bought a few books. What's the link between blockchain and AI? Because I want to learn both.
So blockchain is an enabler. It's an emerging technology that's an enabler. But AI is also an enabler as well. So depending on what the application is, the link between the two, the synergy between the two is that you have a distributed ledger being used, and you also have the AI, the artificial intelligence, that will drive human interaction or human-like interaction on the blockchain itself. And so you would use AI in certain areas that would be necessary for you know, for a human capital or human resource to actually be in place of, but you may not have you may not need that human, and that's where the AI comes in. I don't need a customer service agent to order supplies. I can use an AI for that very reason, right? I can look at the inventory that I have. I can cross-reference that to what's available from various vendors on the blockchain that are tapped into the same blockchain, and we can make orders from there on out, depending on what the supply is. Let's say, for example, if I have an office that has multiple printers that have ink cartridges in them. Well, what happens when those ink cartridges get low and I'm not able to know if I'm not available to actually change out those cartridges? Well, the AI would actually tap in, you know, for those printers, leveraging all the data that it collected, and then go out and order from a trusted vendor on the blockchain itself, and actually calculate all, not calculate, but credit all that stuff on the blockchain, and it's all secure, right? It's immutable.
Okay. I understand for blockchain you need to learn JavaScript programming language. What about AI? AI, any language would do, such as Java or C++?
Yeah, you would use any one of those. Java being the main one, but C# is another one. Go is another one. There's a variety of programs that you use for artificial intelligence. We did a whole entire live stream on that. If you go back to the archives of the Black Brain Trust, I think maybe about February or January, we talked about AI. Actually, we did a live stream, I think 2 weeks ago, about AI, ML, machine learning. So you might want to go through 2 or 3 weeks ago on Black Tech Talk.
Okay. Because I want to be able to work remotely, and I understand I need to become a programmer in AI or blockchain.
Yeah, programming. Yeah, coding is a big piece. Programming is a big piece. So Python, C++, or I shouldn't say C++, C#, Java. Those are the 3 main languages that are going to be really contributors to all of this. But like I said,
what about JavaScript?
JavaScript is one, but JavaScript is a part of HTML. JavaScript is a part of HTML. So if you're going to learn JavaScript, you might as well learn HTML as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah, HTML or even PWA, Progressive Web Application. That's another important aspect behind a lot of this stuff. But that's a part of web developer experience. But there's all types of stuff that we've covered on the AI ML hangout that we did last 2 weeks ago, I think.
Okay. Do you recommend to use a website such as Udemy.com, because they have a lot of courses to learn the technology? Do you recommend to use one of those websites?
I use Udemy when I find something of interest. I don't use it as a primary, but I use it as a supplement. My main go-to, if you go to the community tab on the Black Brain Trust, I use Inform IT. So, I mean, there's other places you can go, but I just choose to use that because I always use Pearson View and Pearson Publishing for taking my exams and stuff like that. So I've always been accustomed to just using that platform for books and video. There's a variety of places you can go. You can go on YouTube. There's Free Code Camp. So it's a free platform for learn to code. I would actually go there as well if you don't want to spend any money as of yet or you can't afford it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds good. So I gotta go, but I will continue to listen. Thank you for your answer.
Yeah, no problem, brother.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, so this is where we are right now. Blockchain in the medical supply chain area. Mask, gloves, eye protected wear, hand sanitizer. That's another thing. There's a lot of hand sanitizer that's being falsely put out there. Counterfeit sort of products. It says hand sanitizer, but it's probably just a bunch of jelly or something like that. There's nothing really critical for use. There's a lot of counterfeit products running around out here. People are just going out there and buying it all up. Same thing for toilet paper. Imagine, who would have thought 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, that people would be talking about toilet paper in the way that they do. But now you need to make sure you get high quality toilet paper or paper towels for that matter. People are willing to spend money on it now. You don't want somebody, a vendor who just spun up a web store saying they got the best toilet paper ready to ship, and you come to find out it's some crappy stuff. Somebody needs to verify this stuff. This is where the blockchain comes in. Hey, what's going on, Zero? What's going on, bro? Hard Fork Rich, what's going on? Engineering Cannabis, what's going on? Jay Green, what's going on? The Broke Genius, what's going on? Dr. Phoenix, good evening to you. Mental Alchemist, peace. Anti-Gravity, what's going on? RWP, good evening to you as well. I saw Ty City was on here. And China White, thank you for coming through. Yeah, who would have thought about this stuff 6 weeks ago? No one was talking about all of these sort of supplies 6 weeks ago. Now everybody, has a vested interest in knowing where their supplies come from. But if you don't have some kind of blockchain system set up, you're always going to be, you're always going to have this sort of fragmentation in logistics. Supply chain management is very critical. And now you're starting to see the desire to have such a system set up, and now all of a sudden technology becomes important. Before this was all done by hand. Now it's all being done by technology. Distributed ledger technology, for that matter, I should say. Like I was just saying earlier, the mask right here, this woman is wearing a mask right here. At least I hope that's a woman. This hair cap, protecting the hair. The mask that you see on her face, the gownie that she has on, the gloves that she has on, all of this stuff needs to be put on the blockchain. A lot of people don't really realize this, that, this is very important. Very important. But when you have a crisis like this, I mean, I know it sounds, we heard another YouTuber talk about body bags. Well, yeah, body bags will be necessary if you have a lot of patients dying. That stuff needs to be put on the blockchain as well. You don't want people being, having their bodies disposed of in Ziploc bags. It's not the business. It's not the business at all. But this is a good time to actually get into blockchain development. Right. Let me see. Yeah, I think we covered everything, man. I don't really have much more that I can say about this other than, it's actually a good learning moment. It's a good teaching moment for those who had not really been paying attention about the supply chain issues of this pandemic. Even things such as aerosols, disinfected, Lysol disinfected, table, Clorox bleach and Pine Sol, and these sort of solvents that are used to sanitize areas, sanitation wipes. Imagine if you're a country in need, or you're a state that's in need, or a city government that's in need, and you don't have these supplies available. How would you know what's available unless you had some kind of technology you could tap into at the palm of your hand? You would need something like this.
Hey, Mike, in our community, when I say our community, what should be our community, the Black community? All this thing we should be looking at, especially those people who would sit down and complain for the last couple of years when we were talking about what could happen to the economy. Mm-hmm. And if they were looking at things that were happening around the world, right now they'd be sitting pretty with inventory, able to go into business. Mm-hmm. And even now that you're talking about this putting all your building a blockchain system where your inventory is connected to whatever factory you might have, 2 or 3 manufacturers around the world that you certify you know, that you can order your product from when you need it.
Yeah, you need to
Through
know.
the blockchain.
Yeah, you need to know whether or not it came from Southeast Asia or was it manufactured in USA.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of concern that can come out of all of this. You know, I know Dr. Phoenix works in the medical industry or in the healthcare industry. He can probably speak to some of that as well. We don't, you know, he may not know who his supplier is. All he knows is that he goes into the office or he goes into the workplace and he suits up every time he comes in. You know, he doesn't really know where that came from.
Yeah.
You can have a quality control issue where the gloves that he puts on, you know, may tear, for that matter, or it may have a powdered substance in there that may have been subject to recall. How would they know that? When they had the blockchain, they would actually know that in real time. That stuff needs to be recalled, and you don't need to be putting those gloves on. You need to destroy them or send them back.
Yeah, the blockchain will actually inform you.
Yeah,
the time it happens.
Yeah, because they can update it in real time. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button if not already done so. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust when those posted on the community tab. Doc in the description beneath the video. Thank you to everyone who joined on the panel. Ty City as well. Ty City's not here right now, but thank you to him for actually lending his ear and his knowledge on some of these things happening in the blockchain space. We have Patrick.
It's just me.
Oh, okay.
Quick question. We talked of mostly in terms of blockchain. We talked of every aspect of it, and backend, C#, Python, JavaScript. But because I haven't looked at the front end. What software do you think of the front end will be more in terms of dealing with blockchain itself?
Well, blockchain is a back end system, not a front end system.
Because don't you the front end in terms of basically writing a front end to basically accept data?
That's the API.
Yeah, the API. Okay.
It's the API.
Because I was looking at seeing if there's a front end.
Yeah, see, the API is actually your front end is going to be your systems that's connected to it. So your system is going to connect to the API. The API is going to connect to the blockchain itself.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yep. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Shalom.
Yup. N-O-N.
Boy, you in the wrong place with the wrong one.
Life.
Boy, you in the wrong place with the wrong one. Boy, you in the wrong place with the wrong one.
Woke up stony, still I need my lighter in the rollie. I'm thinking of the nonsense I often let control me. I look into the mirror and it's like I see the old teen trapped in the glass, open it cracks so he roams free. I start to leave as I'm headed for the kitchen, and then I hear a voice and it's begging for attention. Like, listen, vicious, clear you've been tripping. I think that you're forgetting everything that you've been wishing. Like, what's with all the tension? It's sunny like listening. Still through the thrills, I've been seeing something different, and I'm what you're missing, the piece to the puzzle. So I'm never dipping till you going like shuttles. I've been here since days we were playing in the puddles. Cause I'm your inner child, you'll never see a double. It can't be the hustle like Carly, he got it. They say he should slow, but he can't ever stop it. I feel numb, how dead am I? Got pain inside, but I never cry, no. Still blessed, so I question why. Is it still just me, myself, and I? I'm too lost all of the time. In my thoughts, I'm just trying to get by. I'm too lost all of the time. In my thoughts, I'm just trying to get by. Close to midnight, left the bros in the sight. Now I'm home and enclosed in my dome for the night. Like Rome, it's the fight, trying to hold life tight. As I hear another voice trying to shine life's light. Like,
listen, Bishop, Markel, you better wisen up before you slip and you fail. You'll be another tale, just with one to tell. Yeah, they wanting you to fail like you kick, flipped, and fell. Look, you move well when you in position, but you don't want to let pressure change your decisions. You know your intentions. Keep keep rolling, keep winning. Put your chips down and you gotta keep spinning. Enjoy life's gambles. I know the niggas start to be a handful. You think that it'll all dismantle? I need the old days when you were the young vandal who didn't give a fuck if they didn't understand you.
I feel numb, how dead am I? Got pain inside, but I never cry. No, still blessed, so I question why. Is it still just me, myself, and I? I'm too lost all of the time. In my thoughts, I'm just trying to get by. I'm too lost all of the time. In my thoughts, I'm just trying to get by.
NON, Cold Life, 2296.
Boy, you in the wrong place with the wrong one. Boy, you in the wrong place with the wrong one. Boy, you in the wrong place with the wrong